Jake Paul, the social media sensation turned boxer, has been at the center of a whirlwind career in the fighting world. His brash personality, constant media attention, and undefeated streak have made him both a target and a sensation. But no one could have predicted what would happen when he stepped into the ring against a UFC champion, someone who had spent years perfecting their craft in the octagon. What we witnessed was nothing short of shocking, leaving fans stunned and critics speechless. Here's what went down. The showdown began as a spectacle. Jake Paul, known for his brashness and larger-than-life persona, was up against none other than a UFC champion who had dominated the octagon for years. The fight was being billed as a massive cross-discipline showdown, the world of boxing versus the world of mixed martial arts. Jake had talked a big game in the lead-up to the fight, claiming that he could take down any UFC fighter, including champions, and prove that he belonged among the best. The UFC champion, who had previously laughed off the idea of fighting Jake, had eventually agreed to the match, giving Jake a chance to prove his worth. The tension was palpable, as fans eagerly awaited to see if Jake Paul could back up his words in the ring. From the moment the fighters stepped into the arena, the energy was electric. Jake Paul, dressed in his signature flashy boxing gear, was met with a mixture of cheers and boos from the crowd. The UFC champion, on the other hand, walked into the ring with a calm demeanor, exuding confidence and a quiet sense of focus. The bell rang and the two fighters began circling each other, sizing each other up. It was clear from the beginning that this wasn't going to be your average fight. Jake Paul, though inexperienced compared to his opponent, had trained hard and seemed determined to prove that his boxing skills were up to par. For the first few rounds, it was a back-and-forth battle. Jake Paul's striking was sharp, and he managed to land some solid punches on his UFC opponent. However, it quickly became apparent that the UFC champion's experience in mixed martial arts had given him an edge. The champion's clinch game, wrestling ability, and ability to close the distance were proving to be a challenge for Jake, who struggled to maintain the range. The UFC champion, known for his high-level grappling, was able to land a few takedowns that shifted the momentum of the fight. The first shocking moment of the night came when Jake Paul was taken down in the second round, something that no one expected. His opponent seemed to control the fight with ease, using his superior grappling skills to neutralize Jake's boxing. But then, in the third round, something unexpected happened that left everyone in shock. Jake Paul, who had been struggling against the UFC champion's grappling, suddenly unleashed a devastating knockout punch that sent the champion crashing to the canvas. The crowd went wild as Jake Paul stood over his fallen opponent, his arms raised in victory. It was an incredible moment, one that no one could have predicted, especially given the disparity in experience between the two fighters. The knockout was a game-changer, and Jake Paul's victory sent shockwaves through the fighting world. What happened next was even more surprising. As Jake Paul celebrated, his UFC opponent, who was still recovering from the knockout, got up and made an unexpected move that stunned everyone in the arena. The UFC champion, who had been humbled in the ring, walked over to Jake Paul and extended a hand of respect. Despite the fierce rivalry and the tension leading up to the fight, the UFC champion admitted that Jake's skills were no joke, and he congratulated him on his victory. The crowd erupted in applause as the two fighters embraced in a moment of sportsmanship. This act of respect was shocking to fans who had expected animosity and bad blood between the two competitors, but the surprises didn't end there. After the fight, Jake Paul took to social media to address his critics, calling out the naysayers who had doubted his abilities and mocking those who had said he couldn't hang with the UFC champion. He posted a message that sent shockwaves through the sports world. "I just knocked out a UFC champion. It's time for the world to stop underestimating me. This is only the beginning." Jake's post went viral, garnering millions of likes and shares, as fans and critics alike reacted to the shocking outcome of the fight. Many praised Jake for his unexpected knockout, while others couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. The Aftermath of the fight was filled with heated discussions. Fans of both fighters flooded social media with their reactions. Some UFC fans were quick to criticize their champion for getting knocked out, while others defended him, citing the unpredictability of the fight game. Meanwhile, Jake's supporters celebrated his win, with many claiming that he had finally silenced his critics and proven that he was for real. The fight, which had started with so much tension and hype, ended up being a defining moment in Jake Paul's career, one that would be talked about for years to come. In the days that followed, Jake Paul began to speak openly about his future in the sport. He hinted that he would be looking for even bigger challenges, possibly facing off against other UFC fighters or even legends from the boxing world. His victory against the UFC champion had given him the confidence to push further into the world of combat sports, and it seemed like there was no turning back. Jake had proven that he could hang with the best, and the next chapter of his career was already in the works. The fight also had an impact on the UFC, with some questioning the organization's decision to allow a social media influencer with limited experience in professional combat sports to step into the ring with one of their champions. Was this a mistake, or had Jake Paul truly earned his place among the world's elite fighters? That debate would likely rage on for months, but one thing was certain: Jake Paul had shocked the world with his knockout, and the landscape of combat sports had just shifted. What does the future hold for Jake Paul? Could he continue to climb the ranks and challenge even bigger opponents, or was his victory just a fluke? Only time will tell, but what's undeniable is that the night Jake Paul faced off against a UFC champion will be remembered as one of the most shocking and unpredictable moments in combat sports history. Whether you love him or hate him, Jake Paul has proven that he's here to stay, and he's not backing down anytime soon. What do you think about Jake Paul's victory against a UFC champion? Was it a fluke, or is he the real deal? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking updates from the world of combat sports.